Hi guys, I'm Gasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to your coffee times to discuss books and horror. And today I'm here for one of the videos that I know you guys love and I do too, and that is the book releases for next month, the month of August.
It's coffee time!
By the time you see this video, it's going to be exactly the 1st of August. So I am here to let you know everything that's coming out, that it's either a horror or a thriller, something like that, and something that caught my attention or I think that might be interesting. I always try to make it as varied as possible. I do have some middle grade, some YA, some adults, and different types of horror subgenres. So let's dive into it. For the month of August, I have a total of 25 releases. As always, these are just the ones that I have curated into this list, but there might be many other ones out there. We're going to start today with a middle grade that I have actually pre-ordered and I am excited about because it sounds like one of those really good reads for summer. It is called Field of Screams by Wendy Paris, and I really enjoyed the cover and it kind of reminded me, you know, to this kind of like vibe of cornfields and stuff, and that is another perfect setting for summer horror. This is a supernatural mystery about a 12-year-old girl called Rebecca that has always wanted to be able to see and talk to ghosts, but that is until she actually meets one. Rebecca is a paranormal enthusiast and she's not happy that her family has dragged her all the way to Iowa to spend the summer. She's gonna be stuck with family members that she doesn't even know, but then she finds the traces of a possible ghost, and that is when she gets really excited and she's happy that she's there. However, when she tells people that she has seen a ghost, no one believes her. Shocker, we have the beautiful trope of parents not believing their children in horror movies, and we all know how that ends. So Rebecca is now stuck alone trying to figure out the mystery of the ghost, and I'm really excited to get into this one. Moving on to YA queer horror, we have a book called Damned If You Do by Alex Brown. It is pitched as a queer Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Filipino folklore, and I was like, yes please, this sounds so fun. And when you read the synopsis, it does sound a little bit like a possible episode from Buffy. We follow Cordelia and she thinks that she might have mistakenly sold her soul to a demon, and now she's gonna have to try to fix it. So in order to try to get the soul back from the demon she sold it to, unknowingly, she now has to help the demon to kill another demon that is causing trouble, and this sounds like fun and campy and exactly like Buffy. So this is another one that I'm excited to see, you know, people's reviews and see if I have to pick it up. The next one is a sequel, and it's not a book that might be for everybody because it is a very specific taste. It is a splatterpunk horror book, and it is called The Cotton Candy Massacre Part Toots by Christopher Robertson. So it is a sequel to the 2022 book called The Cotton Candy Massacre. The book takes place on a theme park, which is something that I really enjoy in books, and it is a park that in the 80s had to close its doors because there was a massacre, so a lot of people were butchered in the park, and now it has finally reopened its doors. So I am expecting, you know, people to be excited to go back to the theme park, and then, you know, probably they're gonna start dying again. That is what happens in book 1. So if you read it, or if you haven't but you're interested in splatterpunk horror, then these might be books that you would like to check out. Next we move on to an adult horror mystery thriller, and that is Mr. Magic by Kirsten White. And I was really excited when she released Hide, but then the reviews started to come in and there were really mixed reviews and I never picked it up, but it sounded so good, and it was also on a theme park, and this one also sounds so good. So I don't know, I might have to pick up her adult books. During the filming of a kids show, there was an accident and many people got killed, and that is why they had to shut down production on this show about Mr. Magic. So basically years later there's still many fans of the show and they have their own groups, and they decide to meet and they're trying to figure out what happened to the show, what happened with that accident, what happened to Mr. Magic, who was this guy, and I'm pretty sure that the deeper they dig into the story and what happened, the more they're gonna put themselves in danger. Then we have The Woodcutter by Stephanie Ellis, and we follow a family that after a family tragedy, they decide to gather all together in a place next to the woods that they remember from their childhood. There's also legends about those woods and about someone called the Woodcutter, and as the family gathers there, they are going to, you know, reconnect with all their acquaintances. There are some family secrets that are gonna come to light, and also the Woodcutter is gonna make a new appearance. Next we have Bad Moon Rising by Luisa Colon. We follow 16-year-old Elodia, and she is going through a lot. She doesn't have a really good relationship with her father. She doesn't know what happened to her mother or why she left, and she's also an outcast at school. But Elodia also knows that something happened to her, but she just cannot remember exactly what it was, but it was definitely something terrible. Miles away from her, we follow another story, and that is Gabriel's story that is looking for his missing parents, specifically his birth parents, and he wants to show them what a good guy he's become, everything that he has accomplished, and he would like to meet them. And we're gonna follow these two characters that, even though they're going through their own struggles at the moment, they also know that something happened to them. There's something connecting them, something horrible, and I guess we're gonna have to discover what happened to them, why are their stories connected. Next we have a YA queer horror novella, and it is called They Fade Away by Alex R. Moredes, and there is not many YA novellas out there, so I'm really excited that, you know, they're bringing up some horror novellas also for YA readers. Arwin goes to school as every other day, and he expects it just to be the same boring, monotone day, but then he realizes that a couple of people are missing, and also another student, Emma, realizes the same thing. She's like, hey, there's a couple people here that are missing, and interesting enough, these two characters are the only ones that seem to notice that people are missing. Everybody else doesn't have any recollection of these people ever existing. And now these two characters that didn't know each other are gonna have to work together to try to figure out why nobody else remembers these other people, and most important of all, why are they missing? Where did they go? Next we have Lacuna's Point by Tim Mayer. 3 years ago, Ellie's daughter went missing, and now she has received a message that leads her to believe that her daughter might still actually be alive. So she goes to Lacuna's Point to try to find her missing daughter, but this is going to lead her to a very much darker path than she anticipated. The only constable of the place is zero help, and it's very hostile. The mayor is actually someone that nobody has ever seen, so there is something really wrong in this place. The next book is a fantasy horror book, and it's called The Wild Fall by Catherine Silva. It has been 10 years since a phenomenon happened that was called the merging. Basically, the woods took over civilization, and also ghosts started to appear. So ghosts have returned to kind of haunt the living, or people that they used to know when they were alive, and Liz is one of them. She's able to see her ex-partner's ghost, and it is really hard for her to move on. Like Liz, there's many others out there, and they have all gathered together to try to form a tiny civilization in this new world order and try to survive together. They have heard about a community that has electricity and water, and that is kind of trying to go back to what civilization once was, even though due to the circumstances it's not really possible to really go back. But Liz and a couple of people that she met on the way are trying to get to this like safe haven, but when they get there, they don't find exactly what they had hoped. Then we have Black Bolt by Alma Katsu, and this is a short story, very short, under 100 pages, that is an Amazon Prime exclusive, so I'm guessing you can only get this one through Amazon, through your Kindle. This is only an ebook publication as well, and it sounds a little bit like sci-fi because we follow a CIA officer that claims he has seen something in the skies, and he's a little bit unsure if he should say something about it or not because of the whole, you know, UFO conspiracies and stuff. But he decides to say something and nobody believes him, and that is really detrimental to his career. But a couple of years later, there's a lot more people that are coming out saying that they are seeing things in the sky. So it sounds like a possible UFO situation, or maybe that's misleading to another type of horror. I don't know, but if you like Alma Katsu's works, maybe you want to check out this very short story. The next one I wanted to mention because I think it's gonna be good if you guys have kids at home, or you want to get a book for someone you know that has kids, because this is a graphic novel perfect for kids that love Halloween, or parents that love Halloween, and it's called Halloween by Moss Lawton, and they say it's for people that love either Monster High or Wednesday, and it's gonna be perfect for the spooky season. Our main character here is called Wen, and she's trying to become a witch. She's kind of trying to train her powers, and she also has a couple of friends that belong to the undead realm, and they're only allowed to come to the world of the living during Halloween. So I hope this is gonna be like cute and cheesy and fun for kids. So I just wanted to mention it here in case that you are looking for a present for your own kids for this Halloween season. We go back to adult horror, and we have a horror mystery thriller called The Handyman Method by Nick Cutter and Andrew F. Sullivan. This has been pitched to be a perfect book for fans of the Black Mirror or the Amityville Horror. Both things sound really interesting to me. We follow a family that decides to move into a new home. We're already loving this trope, and the whole neighborhood kind of houses, it's all a little bit unfinished. So this book is said to be a book about home improvements, destructive insecurities, and also a haunted house all mixed up together. And I am really intrigued, to be honest, because I would love to see the trope of the, you know, family moves into a new home or neighborhood and strange things start to happen. I would like to see that trope kind of twisted, and I know that Nick Cutter specifically can be really intense and disturbing with his stories, so I'm excited to see what they did here. Next we have a horror sci-fi book, and we have Whale House by Daniel Krauss. Whalefall is a scientifically accurate mystery thriller, and the story is basically about this guy that gets trapped inside of a whale. It only has limited time to get out of there before he dies. We follow Jay, and he has been meaning to recover his father's remains since his father last year committed suicide, and his remains are still at the bottom of the ocean, and so he decides that the guilt is eating him alive and he needs to do something. So he decides to go scuba diving and try to find his father's remains. While he's down there, something scares him, and he ends up kind of losing focus and comes across a sperm whale, and the whale basically inhales him. She kind of eats him, and now he's inside of the whale, and he only has a limited amount of oxygen before he can make it out alive. I think this is such an interesting concept. It is kind of like a claustrophobic tale of survival, but in a very specific environment, a living environment. And yeah, I'm really intrigued, to be honest, about this one and how it's gonna go. Next we have a novella called Mosaic by Catherine McCarthy. The story follows a stained glass artist that is helping to restore the windows of a church, and I believe they overhear a conversation about someone that is trying to reawaken some evil forces. That is what I have gathered from the synopsis, and honestly, that sounds really good to me because there are not too many horror books that take place like inside of churches per se, and I do love a church-like setting from the inside. I think they are really atmospheric, so this might be a really great novella to pick up. The next one is a book that I'm really excited about, and I think it's a book that is gonna be helpful for a lot of you guys out there as well, not just for me, and it's called 101 Horror Books to Read Before You're Murdered, and it is by Sadie Hartman, which hopefully you all guys know her. I do follow her on Instagram and Twitter, and I love her content. And it has an introduction by Josh Malerman, and this is of course a non-fiction book. This is a curated selection of modern horror books, and I'm really excited to see which titles made it into the list, and obviously which ones I have read. I do want to pick up a copy of these and see if I can complete the list. It's going to be a lot of fun to see which ones I have read, which ones I haven't, and hopefully try to finish the list as well. Next we have Cain by Dick Wybrow. And this is a really interesting twist of a concept of Wolfman, because we have Cain and he's a wolf, but then he's bitten by a human and he loses the ability to turn into a wolf. So I'm listening because it sounds quite interesting to me. And also apparently the characters in this book that turn into wolves can also turn into dogs, or smaller dogs, bigger dogs. So I think it's gonna be quite fun. So of course Cain now is trying to find a way to return to his pack and to return to his true form, which is to be a werewolf. So I don't know, it sounds a lot of fun. Moving on to another horror graphic novel. There were a couple that were coming out this month that I thought were really interesting, so hopefully you guys are also interested in graphic novels. This one is called A Guest in the House by Emily Carroll. The story follows a young woman that marries a dentist, and she, when she moves in with him after they get married, she starts to discover things about his previous wife that died in mysterious circumstances. So now she's a little bit scared for her life as well. This sounds like your typical mystery thriller plot, but this is a horror. So I'm excited to see how far we're going to push the boundaries. The next book is a book that I have also pre-ordered, and it's called The Last Girls Standing by Jennifer Dugan, and this is YA queer horror thriller. We follow a couple of counselors that are the only survivors of a massacre that took place at a summer camp, and they have now decided to return because they want to figure out what happened to them, who was behind the attack. And we all know if you go poking around, you're gonna put yourself in danger. But I picked this one up because it sounded great, survivors of a massacre are trying to figure out what happened. It's also a summer camp, so I'm hoping it's gonna have still all the summer vibes when I get to read it at the end of the month. But yeah, this is another one that I'm excited about. Next we have The Lonely Lanes by Ramsey Campbell, and if you have read anything by him, then you can get excited for his new release. He's also someone that has many books out there. I've only read I think 2, so I do need to catch up. We follow Joe Hunter, and he is starting to recover from the loss of his wife when one day he hears a voice whispering to him, "Where am I?" So now he's in a journey to try to figure out how to get into the afterlife, how to contact his wife, and hopefully be able to either, help her to be free or maybe get her back. So I'm expecting this is going to be a ghost story. Maybe it will have a little bit of grief in it because it is his wife that is asking for help. So we shall see. Next we have a book called Her Teeth Like Waves by Nikki R. Lee. Kat's twin brother goes missing after a diving expedition, so she is determined to go and try to find him with another friend, and they are going to go diving deep into the sea. This is supposed to be a weird emotional horror. I think it might also include a creature, but I'm interested because I do love books that take place deep into the ocean, because I feel like for me that's when, the feeling of being trapped underwater, unable to breathe and stuff is what really gives me the creeps. And this one is also another one that potentially combines grief with horror, which is something else that I like. So I am really intrigued about this release. Next we have Spin a Black Yarn by Josh Malerman. Not much that I have to tell you guys about this one. It's just a compilation of short horror stories. We already got other short horror stories by him in Goblin, but those were kind of intertwined. I believe these ones are completely separate from each other, but if you read Josh Malerman before, you kind of know what to expect. And now we have yet another graphic novel, and I think this is my favorite from the 3 that I have mentioned in this video, because the cover, the artwork for this one, and the plot just sounds like it's gonna be perfect for me. And it's called Grammary Land Volume 1 by A. Rassen. 6 old school friends are all invited to be the first visitors on a new horror theme park. You get it? That's already down my alley. I'm already super excited about it. When they get there, obviously, since this is a horror theme park, there are really weird, creepy creatures. There are animatronics that seem to be dangerous, and things are gonna get intense. At the end of the day, of course, they're gonna be fighting for their lives. It's gonna turn into a game of life and death, and who is gonna be able to survive this theme park. Next, we have Hymns for the Dirt by Joshua Marsella, and this is also a compilation of short horror stories by the same author. There is not much that we know about it, but if you want more short horror stories, or if you read anything else by the author, just for you to know that he's coming out with a new book. The next one is another book that compiles short horror stories, but this one I am super excited about. It sounds fantastic and the cover looks stunning. It is called Night of the Living Queers, and it is 13 tales of terror and delight. It is edited by Shelley Page and Alex Brown, and it's also YA, which makes me really happy. It is a queer horror anthology that explores that everything and anything is possible, and it takes that concept of, you know, when you are during the Halloween season, you can't just dress up as whoever you want to be, you can be whatever you want to be, and I love that they have embraced the horror aspect of it with the costumes and Halloween, with all of these queer stories, and I think it just merges so well together. These are also all queer authors of color, so we have a lot of representation as well in this book, and like I said, this cover is fantastic, and this is one that I'm really excited about. Now we're moving on to something different. We have a gothic horror historical fiction, and we have here Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. This is another one that I have been excited about because obviously the vampires. We are in the 1840s, and we follow a girl that is the daughter of a rancher in Mexico. So Nena, as a daughter of a rancher, is already used to deal with a lot of unpleasant people, but then something else also decides to come around. Something that is draining people of blood, and it's leaving their dead bodies on the floor. And we all know, obviously, based on the title already, that we're gonna deal here with vampires. And I'm really excited about this one. I think that vampires, when done right, especially also in more of a historical gothic setting, that's when they can actually thrive. And I'm really excited to see what the author did with this. We're also in Mexico in 1840s, so I'm just really curious to see what type of vampires we're gonna get. Are they gonna follow the modern, you know, tropes of vampires or not? I'm really excited. Alright you guys, so these were the 25 books that I had on my list of new releases for August 2023. I hope that you enjoyed the list. I hope that there were a couple of books here that you're interested in. If there's any other releases that I missed that you think might be interesting for us horror lovers, leave them in the comments down below for everybody to see. Thank you guys as always so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!